What's going on, everyone? Welcome into another episode of Lutties-lookback. My name is Nick Luttrell. It is the final show of 2025. And as we always do on my show, we're going to take a look back not only on the week of Arkansas sports, but the entire year. For about the next 10 minutes or so, we'll talk about some of the best moments from 2025. And then for the second portion of the show, the last 15 minutes or so, I will look ahead for Arkansas men's basketball. I'll break down their schedule, the rest of the games they have left the rest of the year. I'm going to tell you whether I think they're going to win it or lose it. That's coming up in about 10 minutes. But first, let's start with looking back at a year it's been. The three big things that I want to talk about with the year that it's been in 2025 for Arkansas sports. The first of them is the best of the best for four Razorbacks, and we'll talk about those four. The second thing is the memorable march that it was for the Arkansas men's basketball team. And the third thing is Gage Wood's historic no-hitter in the College World Series. All were such memorable moments to be a Razorback fan, to be an athlete. And let's talk about four specific athletes, four of the top athletes in the country, four of the best athletes in their respective sports. Vahiva Aloy in baseball winning the Golden Spikes. That's the top award in college baseball. Bree Ellis, of course, winning USA Softball Player of the Year and all the awards and accolades that came with that. She was incredible to watch this past season for Arkansas softball. And then two you might not think about as much, Jordan Anthony, the track star that's going to go pro, that's already gone pro, winning the Bowerman Award just a couple weeks ago in the track world. And then Maria Jose Marin in the golf world, the women's golfer winning the NCAA Individual Championship. I think that was back in the summertime. That's, I know there's probably, 15 to 20 athletic competition sports that Arkansas has at their university. For four of the 20 of them to have an individual athlete that is the best in the country, that performed to the best out of everyone else, out of the entire country, is really impressive. And I know we get a lot of hype, and I'll probably talk for the next few minutes about Aloy and about Ellis, because those were back-to-back, and that was really fun over the summer, getting to cover and getting to watch both of those two athletes. Some of the best Razorback athletes that have ever played in Fayetteville is so impressive. But two I want to start talking about that deserve recognition, that deserve almost more recognition that we don't get a chance to give, because honestly, I don't know that much about track. I know a little bit about golf, but we just don't cover it quite as much. But they still deserve the recognition. So we'll kind of go bottom to top in reverse order as I talk about these. Maria Jose Marin, the women's golfer that won the NCAA Individual Champion. She shot a 65 on day 3 of the NCAA Championship. I believe she won some other sort of award that also gave her recognition as, hey, she is the best of the best. And Arkansas golf has put together, they just have an impressive program. Maria Fossey before her, Stacy Lewis before Maria Fossey. They've had a couple really good athletes that hopefully someone like Marine can now go on and be a fun player that we can continue to watch play some golf at the LPGA level. So congrats to her. The other athlete I want to mention is Jordan Anthony. I just mentioned him, the Bowerman Award winner. Only two other people in Arkansas history have won that prestigious award. It is the Heisman Trophy of the track and field world. And it's funny because Jordan Anthony dreamed of winning the Heisman Trophy. He was actually a football star. He was recruited for both football and track. He's definitely found his calling, certainly in the track world. A couple things to note here. He won the 60-meter indoor at Nationals. He also won the 100-meter outdoor at Nationals with some really impressive times. And then let's talk about in the softball and the baseball world. Bree Ellis, softball, 26 home runs, leading the Razorbacks to a super regional appearance. I know the season didn't end how anyone wanted it to end for the Razorback softball team, but what a terrific season they had, and what a terrific season that Bree Ellis had. And she's already missed up in Fayetteville, just her presence and her skill type as well. And then finally, the man who deserves all the honor and praise in Vahiva Aloy, the baseball star now, drafted by the Orioles in the first round of the 2025 MLB draft, the Golden Spikes Award. I really didn't think he was going to win it. There were some other really good candidates that could have won it, but man, that's not to say he isn't deserving. 21 home runs for him. I mean, he had a sensational season helping the Arkansas baseball team make it back to Omaha and make it one game away Yeah, one game away from making it to the College World Series finals. But they fell just short. That doesn't mean it wasn't a great season. That doesn't mean it was a great career and great season for all four of those Razorbacks. All right, let's go to the basketball world. My second big thing, a memorable March for the Hoop Hogs. Let's recall Arkansas basketball was a bubble team, was on the outside looking in of March Madness when we hit March 1st of 2025. They looked better and better as the season went along, but still there was a lot of worry, there was a lot of concern, especially on that day of March 1st. I think people forget. I forgot. And so I looked back at their schedule and I saw they lost to South Carolina, one of the worst teams in the SEC last year. They lost to them by 19 points in Columbia. And that was bad. That was a bad loss, and they looked bad. They put up like 60 points or something like that. It was not the John Calipari basketball team that you needed to see. It was bad. But since then, everything changed. I mean, really since the Kentucky loss, Kentucky win, if you really want to go back to February. But still, they were just looking okay. Then they kind of went on a run. They beat Vanderbilt and Mississippi State to close out the regular season. They beat South Carolina. They got some revenge in the SEC tournament. Ended up losing on a heartbreaking buzzer beater by Ole Miss in the quarterfinals. I think that was the quarterfinals, the second round of the SEC basketball tournament. And it felt like, okay, they'll probably make March Madness now, but at what cost? They're a 10 seed. They've got to face Kansas. If they beat Kansas, they've got to play St. John's. Like, it's so tough. And then Arkansas beat both of those teams, and it was awesome. It was awesome to see Arkansas go on March Madness runs. It just seems like we're so familiar with that. The Muss era got us thinking, hey, we can do anything as a Razorback. And that's what Arkansas just believed. And it's not Muss anymore. It's John Calipari, and Arkansas is better because of that. But that Arkansas magic just clicked in again during March Madness. And those players started to play like we had always wanted them to. Nelly Davis stepped up. Jonas Adu Thero. Remember these names? Remember how much fun it was to watch this team in March? And it wasn't fun that entire season. It really wasn't. But those guys stepped up. Boogie Flan came back from injury. Have you ever thought about, there goes my pen. I'm so excited I'm dropping my pen. Have you ever thought about what if Boogie Flan doesn't get hurt? What if Adu Thero doesn't get hurt? And I know you might say, well, Nick, that was last year. Well, Nick, those guys got hurt and Arkansas actually got better. But still, what if those guys would have returned in a little bit earlier and helped Arkansas be a little bit more healthy? They probably beat Texas Tech. They could probably go on to the Final Four. They'd have to play Florida after that, I know. But it's just all these what ifs, and you don't want to think about the what ifs. I want to focus on the positives for a great year that it's been to be a Razorback fan. But that's the one that haunts me a little bit, is thinking about that what if. But it was certainly a memorable run for Arkansas men's basketball in March. Finally, in June, Gage Wood, the historic no-hitter in the College World Series. I mean, we expected Gage Wood to have a great performance, and I mean, not to the level we saw. And I know it was against Murray State, but it was at the highest level you can get in the College World Series. When your season is on the line, you need someone to step up, and Gage Wood said, I'm him. And because of what he did, he got himself millions of dollars and raised his draft stock exponentially to be a first-round pick. Gage Wood maybe doesn't have the potential to be a first-round pick. I hate to say it with all due respect to the Batesville native, I believe. He doesn't have that potential, I don't think. But because of that performance, he just had so much momentum and hype around his name. One performance can do that for you, and it was a tremendous performance. 100-plus pitches, 19 strikeouts. I mean, he was one hit by pitch away from it being the perfect game, a perfect game. But nonetheless, it was tremendous. It was exciting. It was a lot of fun. And it was a fun year, right? To be a Razorback fan, to be a Trojans fan, to be a Red Wolf fan, to be a Bears fan, to be a high school sports fan. It was a really fun year of 2025. So now let's take a look back. About a minute video I've compiled of some of the best moments of press conference clips from 2025.
I don't know. How many you strike out? 19?
We needed to win a game. So it didn't matter who it was against.
It was one of the most resilient, grittiest performances that we've had in my time here.
They just won the biggest game in program in history.
I saw this moment happening
the first time that I laid eyes on this team. I knew that this team was special.
I guess it didn't really hit me until the water hit me, which that was pretty cold, but man, I'm just so extremely proud of our kids.
They set high goals, and they achieved all of them.
We have 21 players and 2 managers that are so special, and it took every single one of them today.
I think they feel better each time, but they all feel great, man, especially this one.
Like I said prior to the game, how about we give ourselves a chance to make some magic? Let's just go fight like heck, play free and loose. Whatever it happens, happens, but let's go see if we can create magic.
Yeah, it certainly was a memorable 2025. But now it is time to look on to 2026. And I ended that video with John Calipari, March Madness after the win against St. John's, because it is time to transition to the new year. And actually, this should say 2025-2026 Arkansas men's basketball schedule prediction. I'm going to be breaking it down for you guys right here on Luttie's Look Back. Every single game that Arkansas has, the rest of the regular season, it is conference play, and it is time to predict them game by game. So lock in. Let's get rid of this. Let's show you the schedule that Arkansas has for this 2026 season in the SEC world. It's 18 games. I've got it all organized here and put together. We'll go game by game. I got my page-ish full of notes that I can help make some predictions. It's not going to be easy. It's the SEC. I don't know if the SEC is at the level that it was last year. Time will tell, but we're going to have to see. But just like last year, it starts off with a doozy. Arkansas and Tennessee facing off on January 3rd. That game's coming up before we know it. Maybe you found this video on YouTube and you're watching it after this game is taking place. But let's go and start it out. Arkansas and Tennessee, the first game for the Razorbacks in the SEC schedule. I'm giving it a win. I'm giving it a win for Arkansas. Get a little revenge after they lost and just looked really bad to start the SEC slate last year. I think they take down Tennessee. It's a stripe out at Bud Walton Arena. It's a Volunteers team that is top 25. Watch out for Jacoby Gillespie and Nate Ament. It does really scare me with the Volunteers have Nate Ament. I know he's just a freshman, but he's a big guy. He's a tall guy. He's not the most thick guy, but he's a tall guy. And he reminds me of some of the other of those big guys that Arkansas has failed to slow down in the non-conference play. So Arkansas is going to need to slow him down. I'm worried about their bigs. I'll say that a lot with a lot of these games because obviously right now I know more about Arkansas, the Razorbacks, than I do any of these other teams. So that's the concern with Arkansas in this SEC slate. That's the concern in this game. But I think that home crowd advantage, that home court advantage helps Arkansas to a win over Tennessee to start out 1-0 against a really good defense, but to start out 1-0 in SEC play. The very next game, they face off against Ole Miss in Oxford. I'm also giving that a win, 2-0 to start the SEC play. The team last year could have never guessed to make it this far, but it's 2 wins to start the SEC conference slate. It's an Ole Miss team that it is pretty good. They got to slow down Malik Dia. He's a big guy. That does scare me. Again, the big guys scare me when you have an Arkansas team that has really good guards and has so forwards and so big men's. Big guys, it's going to scare me. But Ole Miss has put together a decent non-conference schedule or decent non-conference schedule of wins and losses. But they haven't beaten a Power 4 team yet. And maybe they will in their first conference game of the season, but they haven't shown it to me yet. So I'm not super impressed. I'm not super sold on Ole Miss, even though this game, let me double check, is in Oxford. All right, let's move on to Auburn. This one's tough for the Razorbacks. I know Bruce Pearl is no longer at the helm, but they've got his son. And, yeah, this game is in Auburn. So give me an L for Arkansas, and they start out the conference season 2-1. They'll go down to Auburn. They'll fight, and they'll claw. But again, even though Bruce Pearl is no longer with the program, I still think Auburn is a good team, and it's really hard to win at Auburn. I imagine they're going to go wide out because the Razorbacks are going to be really good and all these things. And so I think that home court advantage will really help Auburn to get the win. The very next game they faced off against South Carolina. Give me a win here. Similar to Ole Miss, they haven't impressed me much this season, has South Carolina. They haven't beaten a Power 4 opponent. And they're certainly not as good as the Razorbacks. I think they're a little bit better than they are last year. Rebounding is an issue for South Carolina, it seems like, in the early parts of this season. I know it is for Arkansas, too, so that makes me feel a little better that weakness on weakness, Arkansas should win that as the better team. They certainly have better guard play with Malik Thomas and Darius Acuff and DJ Wagner and Carter Knox, if you want to say that he's a guard, and Billy Richmond. They've got some really good guards They struggle at rebounding, do the Razorbacks, but so does South Carolina. So give me a win there for Arkansas. Next game, January 17th, it is the Bulldogs. Georgia has been really impressive this season. If there's been a little bit of a surprise team in the non-conference out of the SEC, out of all these teams, it's probably Georgia. They seem to be a good team. They're number 1 in the country in points scored a game. And I know they haven't played the non-conference schedule that a lot of these other quality teams have played, but they were good last year, and they're showing stretches of being good this year. They're also a good defensive team. Statistically, they lead the SEC in steals per game. Again, these are against opponents that aren't as good as some of these other teams like a Florida and a Kentucky have played this season, or an Auburn or an Alabama. Those are kind of the big teams here in the SEC. But this one's at Georgia, and it just scares me a little bit, so I'm going to give an L to Arkansas here in the game against Georgia. All right, moving on to their game against Vanderbilt. This one at home. Chalk me up a W for the Razorbacks. Vanderbilt is the only undefeated team in the SEC right now, and they're similar to Georgia in that they just haven't played anybody. They've had some impressive wins, but a couple reasons why I say this is the win for the Razorbacks. It's at Bud Walton Arena. That should be enough for me, but also I'm just not sold on Vanderbilt. They're the number 11 team in the AP Top 25 right now. They're the number 11 team. It's Vanderbilt. And I know they've had some up and down years over the past decade or so, but I can't believe that Arkansas can lose to Vanderbilt on their home court. And I'm gonna bite my tongue in saying this because it's really gonna irk me if Arkansas does end up losing this game, but I don't think it's going to happen. So it's a W for Arkansas against Vanderbilt, and then turn right around and get definitely one of the worst teams in the SEC and LSU. That's another W for Arkansas at Bud Walton Arena. It's a decent LSU team, but they were picked second to worst in the non-conference media poll. In the conference media poll. And I don't think there's much to worry about there with the LSU Tigers against Arkansas. All right, here we go. LSU. Next up is Oklahoma. This one in Soonerville against Oklahoma. Oklahoma is still one of these teams that is a bubble team right now in the NCAA tournament, kind of like how they were last year. This one just scares me a little bit. I do think Arkansas is better, but this is one of those more feel type of games. I feel like Arkansas is going to lose this game. Maybe it's because they're looking on to Kentucky a little bit, which we'll talk a lot about that one. But I just get the feeling that Arkansas is going to lose. It's at Oklahoma, so give me an L for Arkansas facing off against Oklahoma. Nigel Pack, a really good guard for the Sooners team. All right, let's move on to the big game. January 31st, the game that is going to pack Bud Walton Arena. It is Arkansas. It is Kentucky. You know this game is always going to bring out the fans. And that's a big reason why I think Arkansas has the chance to win this game. And Kentucky, man, they're not. Are they good? Are they not good this season? Let me read you their losses because they haven't had an amazing non-conference start to the year. And a lot of fans there in Kentucky and Lexington especially are not too happy with Mark Pope. But their losses, let me read them to you. They lost to Louisville, a top 25 team. They lost to Michigan State, top 25 team. They lost to North Carolina, a top 25 team. They lost to Gonzaga, a top 25 team. Those are 4 losses for Kentucky. And they had a rough start to the season. Since then, they've beaten Indiana. They've beaten St. John's, even though St. John's isn't as good as they were last year. And they're still a top 25 team. Currently, they don't rank in the AP top 25, but I think they're a top 25 team is what I'm trying to say. I think Kentucky's a great team. But anytime Kentucky comes to Bud Walton Arena, you know the fans are going to get ready to go. You know John Calipari is going to get ready to go to face off against his former team. So how can I not put a W for Arkansas to face off against Kentucky and get the win? All right, we got a little bye here, a little break in the action of the, 2, 4, 6, 8, 9 games. They've lost 3 of them. 6-3, kind of at the bye here. There's a bye. They won't play a midweek game here. Then they'll head to Mississippi State. They still feeling this momentum after the Kentucky win, even though it's a bye. The bye helps them. Give me another win for the Razorbacks against a Mississippi State team that is okay. This game scares me a little bit because it's an 11 a.m. tip-off in Starkville, so it's one of those games I just feel like Arkansas is going to just miss a bunch of three-pointers in the beginning and then kind of just find their way and churn out a win, play good in the second half against the team that they should beat. Watch out for Josh Hubbard. He's one of the best players in the SEC for this Mississippi State team, but I think Arkansas gets the win. All right, they face off against LSU again on February 10th. They've played them already this season. They got a win at home. Now they head to Baton Rouge, and I think they also get a win here. You won't find me very often going back-to-back SEC wins, but this is the stretch I actually think Arkansas is going to put together some wins. They've got 3 wins here, and why not give me a 4th win against Auburn? I've talked about how good of a team Auburn is, even though they don't have Bruce Pearl anymore as their head coach, and I think they are. But again, this game at Bud Walton Arena, Arkansas doesn't lose it, and they haven't, to this point, lost a game at Bud Walton all season long. So give me a win for the Razorbacks against the Tigers. Okay. 4 wins in a row. Now you set up a really big game at Alabama. This could be a top 10 matchup if Arkansas is really feeling the momentum against a really good Alabama team. What you got to know about Alabama is that they're the same team that they've always been. They'll rotate players. They'll shoot a lot of threes. They'll play really fast. What scares me about this Alabama team, what scares me about Arkansas facing off against a high-octane offensive team is that they can score a lot of points, right? We know that. We know that Alabama can score a lot of points. That is their offensive mindset, their offensive thing that they have as being so successful. What scares me is that Houston put up 94, 95 on Arkansas. Houston's a defensive team. That scares me when a defensive team puts up 90 plus, which means Alabama could have put up 150 on the Razorbacks. Now, obviously, that's not going to happen. But I do think this is ultimately a loss for the Razorbacks. Alabama's a good team. Thankfully, the Razorbacks only have to play them once this season. But unfortunately, it is in Tuscaloosa, and it is against a really good Alabama team. So give me the win for Alabama, a loss for the Razorbacks. LeBaron Philon is the guy to watch out for the Crimson Tide team. A really good Crimson Tide team that every year I'm like, I want to pick them to win it all in March Madness just because of their offensive mindset that they have. But you know what happens when you have a really good team that shoots a lot of threes? Every now and then they miss a lot of threes. And that could happen in this game. That's the reason they may not make it to the Final Four. That's the reason Arkansas could win, but I'm not picking it as a win. So they lose against Alabama, then they turn around a few days later, and they play Missouri. Missouri, they'll have to play twice in the last 5 games of the regular season. And I think it's a loss here. This is one of those feel ones where I feel like Arkansas is better, and I know they're better than Missouri, and it irks me to say it once again, but Missouri is going to beat Arkansas. This will be their first home loss of the season, and it's going to be an upset. I had to pick an upset somewhere in here, and it's this Missouri game, and it's this Missouri team. February 21st, Arkansas will lose to Missouri. I'm sorry, but that's just, I had to pick one of those games. All right, let's move on from that one. Back-to-back losses after 4 straight wins. What can you do when you turn around and you play Texas A&M? You can bounce back and get a win. So that's what I'm picking for Arkansas against Texas A&M. It's an A&M team that is still rebuilding with a new head coach, but it's a team that I think Arkansas can take down. They're a team that shoots a lot of three-pointers, but unlike Alabama, they don't actually make all of those three-pointers. So I think Arkansas wins against the Aggies. Their final 3-game stretch of the season, they should be well into March Madness at this point. Now it's just seeding. They've got some big games here, especially this one on February 28th. Florida was, I think, the preseason AP top team in the country, if not the top team, I think, in number 2. They're the defending national champs. They got a guy named Boogie Flan, who you might remember from last season. But they haven't had the year that many people expected. I think they've fallen to a 5 seed in Joe Lunardi's latest bracketology. They're not the team that people thought they were going to be, but that doesn't mean that Arkansas, it's an easy win for Arkansas. And actually, I don't think it's a win for Arkansas. I think they go here, they go to Gainesville, and I think they lose this one. It's just hard to win on the road in the SEC. I think they'll be motivated, they'll be excited. It'll be cool that Boogie Flan, that connection, I'm sure we'll talk about that on THV 11 all week. And there's really no bad blood between them, I'm sure, but I just think Florida's the better team there. I think they can rebound the ball really well. They're leading the country in rebounding margin, or the SEC. I can't remember which one of those two in rebounding margin this season. Alex Condon is really good, a big man for Florida, so I think they get the win there. All right, March 4th. It is now March. Arkansas playing their best basketball in March. I think so. Arkansas and Texas A&M give me a win here on March 4th for the Razorbacks. Texas is a relatively good rebounding team, and I think they'll be similar to Oklahoma in that they could be a bubble team most of the year, but I don't think they're good as they are last year. They don't have a Trey Johnson like they did last season. Arkansas gets a win here, and then Missouri to close out the regular season. Yes, give me a W. They'll win it at home. I know I had to pick that one upset there, but there it is. That's the completion of the 2026 schedule, the regular season conference schedule for Arkansas men's basketball. So let's add it together. Assuming Arkansas wins on Saturday against JMU, their total schedule for the 2025-26 season, in my prediction, 22 wins, 9 losses. Anytime you have a single-digit losses in your overall record, you'll take that. That's pretty good. And in a conference that is one of the best, if not the best in college basketball, 12-6 in the SEC, you'll take that as well. So where does that put Arkansas in the NCAA basketball tournament? Maybe a 6 seed, maybe a 5 seed, depending on how the SEC tournament, how the SEC is this season. Maybe a 7 seed, but my prediction is this record, this seed, making it to the NCAA basketball tournament. They'll win their first game. They'll win their second game. I'm predicting them to pull off an upset in the Sweet 16. I think it would have to be an upset, maybe against a 3 seed if I remember how the bracket works. But I think that's where it ends. I think they make it to the Elite 8, which good for them, but I think that's where this season ends for the Razorbacks. So that's good, right? 22 wins, losing in the Elite 8. Now, it's going to be disappointing. You're not going to watch this video back after Arkansas loses in the Elite 8 and be like, wow, Nick got it right. I'm so excited for him. No, you're not going to do that. But that's just my prediction, and that's a good season. All in all, that is a good season. But you know what? We've got a few days left in December, and this is my prediction. I'm predicting 4 months from right now what's going to happen. That is really hard to do. I don't know if you ever tried it. That's really hard to do. But that's my prediction. That's how I'm feeling for Arkansas basketball for 2026. All right, let's finally move on to the final thing we have, which is my Lutties look ahead. There's actually one more game left for Arkansas before they go on to their SEC slate. It is Monday at 7 o'clock. Chances are you're watching this the day of or the day after or a couple weeks after this game happens. But it's Arkansas. It is JMU. It's a JMU team that is usually pretty good out of the Sun Belt. But they're not too good this season. 7-6 on the year. The Razorbacks, meanwhile, 9-3. The number 18 team in the country. That one's on SEC Network Plus. Not too often that the Razorbacks have a game that is streaming only, but no fret. We will have those highlights for you Monday at 10 on THB 11. Well, that is going to do it for this week's show of Luttie's Look Back. It is the final show of 2025. Thanks so much for watching. We broke down what a fun, exciting year it was in 2025 for Arkansas sports, and we looked ahead to 2026, especially to the Arkansas men's basketball conference schedule. Thanks so much for watching, everybody. We'll see you next year.